Yeah, I know Snap tried theory crafting some support stuff. I I think that's I mean, I really enjoy people coming in and trying different things and like getting their own eyes and perspective on the game and building in different ways that we might have not have thought of before. But I ultimately I don't think it's gonna be better. I don't think it's gonna be better. I don't know.
Vina, I love you and everything you do for the community, but oh boy, were you wrong. Yo, what is up, guys? Snap here. Today, we're going to be talking about all of the group builds that we've been playing for the last Epoch 1.0 patch. We've been doing a pretty hard corruption push. We hit first 2,000 corruption in the new 1.0 cycle. It took us just about a week to hit 2,000 corruption. There's been a lot of downtime slamming stuff. Basically, we're just buying stuff from the bazaar over and over and doing Sanctum to try and hit all of our gear. Let's go over the builds and kind of some changes that we made along the way so you guys can see kind of what we're doing. As for my character, I am obviously opting to scale Raowen's for the Plasma Orb here. As I mentioned in my previous video, Raowen's super powerful because of the spell damage per dodge, ward, or armor, whichever is lowest. This means you can scale offense with defense, which is a super powerful mechanic in any ARPG. Right now in this planner, it doesn't calculate all the temporary buffs that I'm getting. Fully buffed for my supports and I'm teleporting. I'm sitting at around 5.2k dodge and 5.2k armor. I'm pretty balanced, but it might not reflect that solo because I'm trying to optimize for my teammates giving me temporary buffs. So the staff is giving me 520 flat spell damage to start out, as well as the 17 spell damage per active rune. And then the armor, dodge, and all attributes is just the cherry on top. Some other really crazy gear I managed to obtain here is I have 2 T7 int red rings. The red rings is just kind of necessary for the build because 1, it has dodge, which is obviously something we want to scale. 2, it has all attributes, which is scaling the dex more multiplier on the chest. And 3, it just has the 10% DR, which is obviously insane for any attribute stacking build. The defenses matter a lot more when pushing high corruption than the offenses. Typically, any build that can hit maybe like 1, maybe 2 mil DPS on the target dummy is probably going to be able to push like 1,000 corruption or even more. But the dodge scaling here on the rings is super good, and it is definitely where you want to be at endgame for the Raowen's build. One question I get a lot is, can you play this build solo? And the answer is absolutely yes. However, if you are going to go for a Raowen's version, just know what you're getting yourself into. The staff requires a very high barrier to entry with all of your other gear that is not the staff. Until you get about 2.5k, maybe 3k dodge on your character, a Wrong Warp setup is going to be basically your best friend. Wrong Warp is a super powerful item. It has a guaranteed stun, gives you a ton of increased damage. It's definitely the starter entry version of this build. It is actually something that I used for quite a long time until I obtained the gear necessary to switch to Raowen's. I'll link a planner to the Wrong Warp version of the build, and if you're planning on playing it solo, there is just one adjustment you need to make, and that is to build armor shred in either one of 2 places. Primarily, the amulet is a pretty good spot to do it, or the gloves. Those are 2 good spots to get armor shred. After that, your build is pretty much good to go solo. A couple other things to note here is I insight crafted these gloves. I found a really high damage over time base with T7 dodge or T7 armor that I could then craft on. I crafted on the experimental mod, which is current health loss per second, to enable the healing hands heal from my supports. And then I crafted T5 dex on it, and then I just ran out of forging potential, so I couldn't really finish the other prefix. But this pair of gloves is probably the best thing I'm ever going to be getting because the suffixes are perfect. They're also well divined, and I also got the dex, which is really what I wanted here. Other than that, we found some pretty standard stuff here on the build. Jungle Queens obviously is super bis because it has dex on it. I got a super high dodge roll on a 3LP, and I landed the 3 mods that I wanted, so this probably is never getting replaced. Chance to find potions here is super noticeable and definitely contributes to your uptime and DPS. The 48% conditional increased dodge rating and 10% more dodge rating helps for hitting that peak dodge and armor values that you're going for. So this is pretty much never going to get replaced until I can get my hands on a 4LP one. Bar boot, super high attributes, get int or dex, and then armor or dodge really is what you're wanting here. And then on the fundamental, I went for double dodge, but you can go for some mix of dodge and armor depending on the stuff you have on your other pieces of gear. This is probably going to be my next upgrade. I'm going to be looking for a 3LP fundamental criterion and trying to put dodge, and then dex on the prefixes is probably what I'm going to be doing here. The next upgrade for this build is probably going to be a suffix on the Raowen's. I really want lightning pen on the suffix. I had some people asking why I put freeze multiplayer on my staff, and the real answer is just I missed. I've slammed 4 of these staffs so far, and I missed every single one, so this is just the best one I have. As for the idols, you want 6 seconds of stun immunity on teleport. The stuns get out of control in high corruption. Basically, you get hit so hard that everything stuns you. So having the plus 6 seconds here is pretty mandatory. And then I think the best suffix here is just going to be increased lightning damage You can get some other stuff like, flat spell, but I think you have so much flat spell, it's going to be a little bit diluted, so the increased damage is going to go a little bit harder here. You also want to get a 6% chance to gain lightning Aegis when hit. This is just to proc the DR buff and then also give you 50% increased lightning damage. You can get the increased cast speed here, but I find this to be a little bit annoying because it makes your cast speed fluctuate a little bit. Which can be a little bit annoying when you're trying to keep a rhythm with your Rune Bolt and Invocation. So you can take this mod if you want, or if not, you find it annoying, you can take it off. Other than that, the rest of the idols is just dodge rating and then trying to fill out the rest of my resistances that I'm missing. But yeah, I think that's enough yapping about the Rune Master carry here. Let us move on to the first support, which is going to be Paladin. Now, I talked a lot about Paladin and all of the potential utility that it can provide a party. But one thing that was introduced this patch, which is just absolutely broken, is going to be Healing Hands. Healing Hands is just absolutely crazy and is the thing that is enabling all of the ward generation for the party, right? Essentially, the base heal is 100 here, which you can increase with the base up here, which goes to 240. It then gets multiplied by all of your healing effectiveness, and there's some other stuff that boosts it in the tree as well. This node here, Divine Barrier, converts it all to ward. Given that the other person has a drain mod on their character. So you need to have a drain mod enabled for this effect to work. Other than that, it has a lot of the standard Paladin utility we've talked about before. Has Volatile Reversal for the big more multiplier, has Holy Aura on for the crit multi, as well as some Ellie res and some extra dodge for the Raowen's build. 120 flat dodge is quite a lot. And then of course it has sigils here that it's proccing, and it has taken Javelin off the bar because using any non-instant skill unfortunately bugs out Healing Hand. When you take the channeling node here and you cast any non-instant skill, it just causes the skill to bug out and not work properly. So we kind of had to take all non-instant skills off the bar so that we could get a consistent heal here without having this brick, so we're bricking less echoes. As a result of those changes and taking Javelin off the bar, we have offloaded the Javelin to a second Sentinel, which is going to be a Void Knight support. We're in the process of rolling this, so the gear is absolutely trash. Just know that this is a work in progress, but the concept here is to take all of the buttons the other Javelin couldn't fit on the bar, which is mainly Shield Throw. Shield Throw is giving us a 500 armor buff here, which is obviously really crazy to the Raowen's build. It can scale the flat damage a lot higher. And then because it's a Void Knight, it can spec Anomaly, which is another super powerful skill. Anomaly, the utility it brings, is just has a really crazy stun. It has cast speed and cooldown reduction buffs down here. It's just overall a super good utility spell. The stuns are super important in High Corruption. It provides a lot of safety on bosses, Shades especially, and just the general trash on the map. It just provides that extra layer of safety. The CC is very welcome here. And basically, you just want to go Void Knight so you don't have overlapping Holy Auras. It's also going to be the carrier of Javelin here. This build is going to be building slightly more attunement than the Paladin. And that makes it a better carrier for the battle standard here, which is providing a ton of increased damage to the two carries. And then obviously you're just going to throw a little bit of extra stuff on top of that. You're taking another Volatile Reversal so that you can get a little bit more coverage on stuff that's Volatile Reversaled while you're running through the Echo. And then, of course, you're taking the Healing Hands just because you can stack it. That's just more ward, more defenses. And overall, the build is coming together super nicely. We're going to be going for a cast speed variant of this build because we want this build to not channel. The channel node is currently bugged. So we want to actually have non-channeled abilities and non-instant abilities that we can use, such as Javelin, to increase our DPS without it bricking the Healing Hands here. So we're going to be opting for a little bit more cast speed. Once again, the gear on this build is really trash, so you can kind of pay attention to see how it's progressing the next couple days. This planner will update with the gear that we're updating. This character was literally level 2 yesterday, and it was Merchant's Guild 0, but we boosted it all the way up to Merchant's Guild 8, and it's like level 98 or something like that. 96 here, and it just took about 6 hours of farming. We haven't even bothered to fill out all the blessings. That's something we're going to do a little bit later. But yeah, the Void Knight support is just the Paladin support, but with Anomaly instead of Holy Aura, and it's just fitting all of the other buttons that the other Sentinel couldn't fit. Basically, we dropped the Mage support because the CC that we're getting from Wrong Warp on the second carry, as well as the Anomaly stun, is going to be enough for you to stun Shades to feel comfortable at High Corruption. And so we're valuing the Snap Freeze a lot less. And obviously the ward generation from the Glyph is a lot less consistent and a lot less powerful. So we're just rolling the second Sentinel here for the Healing Hands. Last but not least, we can go over the second carry build. I did also go over this in my previous video. Not much has changed here. Mainly you want to try and get a pair of gloves here instead of Swaddling of the Erase, mainly because you want to craft the health drain mod so that you can enable the Healing Hands, and you want to do this on an exalted base and then insight craft the drain mod onto the gloves if possible. But mainly we want to have one carry stay wrong warp just because you can stun shades and make it a little bit more safe, as well as stun stuff in the monos. It feels super good. But yeah, that's most of the gear, most of the adjustments, all of the changes that we made on our way to 2K corruption here. We're going to be pushing a little bit more. I don't know how long we'll go. We're just going to be going as long as we're having fun, right? But the push here is going to definitely slow down a little bit. We've been doing like 16-hour days for like a week now. So we're going to be slowing down a little bit here. We'll see how far we can take the builds until we truly hit a wall. But anyways, guys, I think that wraps it up for this video. If you have any questions, you can always leave them in the comments. You can also stop by my Twitch chat to try to answer as many questions as I can there. Just please don't ask me if Hydrohedron is better than Plasma Orb. I think that will earn you an instant ban. Anyways, yeah, that's it for me. Once again, I'm Snap, and thanks for watching.